Moment of truth, what do you think? Have they been changed before, or are these the original 90,000 mile plugs? What's up, Bug Dog with Dini in the garage? Today we have the wife's 2019 Dodge Durango. It's creeping up towards 100,000 miles. I want to give her a little bit of a tune-up. That's going to be spark plugs. You're going to need 6 of them. And because this job involves taking the top of the intake plenum off, go ahead and get yourself some gaskets. There are 2 sets of gaskets. They look similar for this truck. Make sure you get the ones for, I think they're called the fuel injection plenum. Either way, I'll leave part numbers for the plugs and the seals down below. Now my goal today is to give you a quick, concise how-to, give you the tips and tricks, and then let you get back to the real world to do it. I tried to watch a couple videos before I tackled this job, and they were all long for no reason. They didn't really give you any info. So here you're looking at the 3.6 liter V6 that came in the wife's 2019 Dodge Durango. It usually has a big old idiot cover on there. You're gonna want to pop that guy off. Far as I can tell, driver's side, pretty easy. Passenger side, like I was saying, the top of this plenum has to come off. It looks like we got some kind of air sensor here, and maybe a PCV connection over here. So we'll pull those off first. Come on, pop her right up. This guy's gonna be free with the exception of a rubber grommet back there, which, assuming you're not holding a GoPro, will be super easy to pop right out. There we go. So I guess the best way is to try to get it up a little bit and then kind of get your fingers behind it on the boot, and then you can pick, then you're actually pulling on the boot instead of just pulling on the coil. So that's your number one. Oh, there she blows. Boots don't look bad or anything. It's not like they look super corroded up around the neck there. Y'all want a little tool tip Tuesday? Get yourself a 3/8 breaker bar. This little honey is a antique jam. It's a Cal unit, 1266, made in JAPAN. Would recommend, but you can get the Craftsman unit right off the shelf at Lowe's. They are a treat to work with. You'll use it more than you'd think you would. Oh wow, that plug is tight in there, my goodness. I think a robot put that on in Detroit and it hasn't been out since then, which means these plugs have like 90,000 miles on them. Oh goodness, here we go. Oh no, not there yet. Christmas. Giving me the heebie-jeebies, bud. I happen to know there's a ton of threads on these, so that's probably part of it. Nope, not yet. Where you at, bud? Moment of truth, what do you think? Have they been changed before, or are these the original 90,000 mile plugs? Holy carp. That ain't good. Wife was complaining of a small performance issue. Say that's it. There you go, friends. We got every dime out of this one. I mean, these plugs are all crudded up. It almost looks like the engine has some kind of issue. I think they're just absurdly old. Wife was getting terrible MPG, total loss of power. So go figure, little dirty Rango. You just didn't have no plugs in you. Alrighty, friends. Believe it or not, these old plugs were not that far out of spec. I guess that's the beauty of iridium over, say, coppers. These guys are coming in right at about, if we round it up, to be about 42 on cylinder 1, 42 on cylinder 3, 43 on cylinder 5. Then I checked all these are all about 39, which, I don't know, in my experience I've always gone a little under, give them room to break in. I know certainly on coppers in the old 4 liters that was the way to go. I may be off base with the iridiums. You guys can let me know down there in the squawk boxes, but haven't had a problem so far. Let's fire these guys in. As with most things on vehicles, there is a torque spec for these. I couldn't care less what it is. If you haven't done 4 million spark plugs in your life and you don't feel comfortable just sort of getting the old elbow torque wrench feel on there for somewhere around 20 foot-pounds, then look up the torque specs and get a torque wrench. But if you're like me and you've done more spark plugs than you can count, well, you get it. On to the other side. Well, I guess I should put this all back together and then on to the other side. Here's a quick tip. Now's a pretty good time to clean up your valve covers, anything else under there. This car has almost 100,000 miles, and it's got 100,000 miles of dirt, grime, mud, blood, and beer underneath everything. Go ahead and clean it now. I might even tackle, oh yeah, that throttle body's gonna get a cleaning. Yeah, buddy. Sure, baby, that's fine. this side of the motor put back together. Not too bad. Let's move over to the more difficult side. As far as plan of attack goes over here, there's really no way to not remove the top part of this intake, this plenum. That's why we got these seals, but these seals go anyway and cause air leaks, which cause performance issues. So I don't hate it that we have to pull it off. Just want to figure out what's the best way to go. I don't want to remove any coolant lines if possible. I think it is possible. So we're going to start. There's a bunch of 8 mils holding this thing down. Let's pull all those out. Look at that bad boy. My goodness. In need of a clean, I would say. I wish we could throw this thing in the ultrasonic, but it's all full of electronicals. We'll see if later on we'll get this cover off, see if we can't put this whole thing in the ultrasonic cleaner. That'll be the goal. What do you think? Let's leave that gasket on for now. Now the reason I took off that throttle body was I needed to tell the difference between the upper intake plenum and the lower intake. I don't know what they're actually called, but basically what you're up against here is you've got the lower intake that we're not trying to take off, and then the upper plenum that we are trying to take off. And I know there's some hidden fasteners, I just don't know where they are because, you know, they're hidden. Alrighty friends, I was trying to avoid doing the recap. I wanted to show you all this stuff in the moment, but there's so many little fasteners. Really the long and the short of it is you got 8 millimeters going along the perimeter on this side. They go along here to the back, including one that you can't see but you can feel, and then you got some real long ones in a row right here. You have a couple 10 mils on a bracket right here. There's one more back here actually. There we go. Chrysler started using, and I'll show you guys these in a minute, but these green quick disconnects, and I am a huge fan. It's rare that Chrysler ever engineers anything that is better than its competitors. Said the Mopar guy. Oh, hey, there we go. So, looks like perfect. I'm sure it's going to benefit from being cleaned before we put her back on. Now would be a really good time to inspect and then cover up your intake ports. A little bit of oil, nothing too bad. These seals actually don't look as bad as I was thinking they might. I was thinking after nearly 100,000 miles they were going to be totally spent. Let's see. Trying to dig these out one-handed, always a good idea. So they still have some pliability to them, and I'll bet they would have worked, but we're gonna replace them. Good peace of mind. Let me cram some blue cloths down here. With the amount of stuff I'm dropping today, it's pretty obvious that if I leave those ports open, I'm gonna end up with my 10 millimeter down there, half the fasteners for the intake, probably my keys, a couple bicentennial quarters. There we go. Now I need to go make the executive producer lunch and let my camera charge, and then we'll be back for the main event. Alrighty friends, ignore the docile tones of air being compressed. You'll notice 1 through 5, 2 through 6, all looking the same. No outliers, no reason to believe one cylinder is experiencing more trauma and drama than the rest, though. I tell you what, bud, we really got every dime out of them plugs, didn't we? Over here, we gave the coils the same treatment, cleaned them up. Additionally, this, whatever this is, I'm pretty sure it's a cam sensor, cam position sensor, I just haven't looked it up, is also leaking, so cam position sensor seals. We'll be doing those on this thing. I'll have to take the intake off again. I'm just not gonna pause the job now to track them down. Whoa! Look at that crap. It's friggin' nasty, man. EGRs are disgusting. Time we turn our attention to this fancy fornicator. So it's totally normal for the intake to accrue some oil, but we're gonna go ahead and clean this thing off now. We'll wipe the oil off the face of these runners, and then we'll try to blast it out with I don't know, I think we'll loosen it up with some brake clean and then flush it out with some spray 9, and we'll pretend like that's doing something. Additionally, y'all see it all we're up against? So just a nice film of oil. It's pretty standard on an intake, throttle body, anything like that. You're gonna have a nice film. We wanna clean this thing out. Put our best foot forward. Now, plugs are in. Let's remove our old seals, which again, the concern here is if these things go hard, which gaskets like this do, over time, they will seal, but as soon as you remove the upper plenum, they will never seal again because they're hard. So just because you weren't having an issue with these before does not mean you shouldn't consider replacing them. Now these are still supple enough, and I believe they probably would have sealed, but I'm in here. The last thing I want to do, it was 35 bucks at Advance. I got the Fel Pros at Advance. You could probably get them cheaper off Rock Auto, but I needed them today. So for $35 to not have to rip this intake plenum off again later, I'll buy that for $1. Now, when you're buying the gaskets, there are two. There's ones for the upper intake, if you will, or the plenum, and the one for the intake proper that goes onto the block. The ones that go onto the block are not equilateral. Wait, well, whatever. They're not perfect rectangles. So if they got a little bump out on the side, they're not the ones you need for this job. Honestly, I'm just gonna fire these guys right in. There's a little bit of oil still on each of those mounting surfaces. Doesn't bother me. It's just gonna help it seal a little bit more. Make sure they go all the way down, but don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Huh. Oh, we're in the neighborhood anyway. Almost there. Okay, front's through its bracket. Pull this 8 up in the back. Oh, money! I don't even believe it. Let's see, is that all the way down across the board? Sure do look that way. Let's go around, take our time, make sure nothing's pinched. All right, friends, I got 2 big tips for you. One is that if you remove the hose for this leak detection pump, you can pretty much get right in here with the Motorb, which makes things easier. The next is going to be this. This intake's actually really easy to put on. There's 2 things that hang you up. One is this 8 mil in the back that we can't get out or put back in because of the cowl. And then 2, up front is this bracket that a stud has to go through. So there's a stud sticking out on the front of the intake. It's this guy. Can you see him? All right. And that has to go through this bracket, this bit of black. I know you can't see right now, but when you're doing yours, it's all going to make sense. This black piece is a bracket that is part of the rest of the motor, or it's attached to the block. This stud is part of your intake. So you have to hold this 8mm up and then get this through, and then the whole thing will drop down and pretty much line right up. And I think I'm at the point now where I can start firing fasteners into her. What you want to do if you're going to get in here and you're going to put any weight down, there's a sway bar down there. Careful though, because everything else that's not the sway bar is plastic. Here we go, a little Husky wrench. She's got a nice clearance bend in her from God knows what. Alrighty friends, I learned something over the course of the last 15 minutes. Back here where this blind fastener is, there are 2 holes. One is just sort of blind, empty hole, kind of like this one, that feels like a fastener should go in there, but it shouldn't. And since you can't see it, you don't really know that. So I just tried for 20 minutes to put the last fastener. I mean, I loosened all these up. It's really fighting with it. It should go in pretty easy, so watch out for that. We're pretty much done here though. After I retighten all these, all I gotta do is hook up all the hoses. Here's your purge valve. There's a hose back here. But these green quick disconnects actually work really nicely. Really nicely. And they just slip right on. I like them. No extra tools needed. It's not like a fuel line fitting type scenario. It's hard with one hand, but take my darn word for it. Alrighty friends, after inspecting the inside of this throttle body, you could absolutely take all this out. It would actually come out pretty easily, and it looks like it would come out mostly all in one. You'd have to pop whatever this board thing is. This gear and this gear should slide right out, and then you can actually get some torques on this electric motor, pull the whole thing out. A little bit of brake clean and a rag is going to absolutely do what we need to do. So we're going to pop this guy back on, and it's got a whole collection of these G's-less clips that you just pop right on. There we go. Work them around. No big deal. All right, friends, to clean these throttle bodies, you can use brake parts cleaner. I happen to have some of this on the shelf, so I'm going to use this guy. You can absolutely go to a wire brush. Make sure she brass. This is aluminum, right? But a little brass brush. I got it about as clean as I could with the brake clean alone, and then this brass brush will just break up anything else. Hold her open with your hand there. And at the end of the day, it's not rocket surgery. It's basically just a 4-door minivan. Calling that good enough for government work, considering how bad she was when we started. Oh yeah. Now, since we're gonna reuse this seal, what you wanna do is try to dig it out of there and make sure there's nothing crusty on it. All right, now this one's got plenty of pliability, but there is some hardened debris around the outside there. I don't know if you can really see it. So I'm not gonna use brake parts cleaner or anything. I am gonna use some spray 9. There we go. Oh yeah, bud. Brand freaking new. These are actually some really nice seals that they used from the factory, and they seem to last, and they seem to do a good job sealing. You just got to get that little bit of grime off them.
Daddy, are you getting bored?
Am I getting bored?
There's no music on out here.
I know, because I'm talking to the camera. I'm doing my video. Are you getting bored?
Yeah.
Oh, are you now? Here, you gotta hold the bottle like this, baby.
Oh yeah, I know. Sorry, Dad.
Okay.
Like, whoa. Like this? This?
Yeah. Here, baby. Let me hold it up like this. That's good. We're golden. Let's do the once over, make sure we reconnected everything we disconnected. So there's a pretty easy way to test that. You just go to click her on. If she dials to life and stays dialed, you did a good job. And if not, well, back to the proverbial drawing board. No CELs, nothing in the vehicle info thing, not that there would be anything there. It really wants me to know that that hood is open. Also, we don't use the oil change counter in here, so don't worry about that. Yeah, pretty good. Long and the short of it is, again, spark plug job's gonna help your efficiency, fuel economy, that's your main thing. Might help your power a little bit too, but in today's modern vehicles, if it's not a high performance vehicle, which you're really trying to get back to some MPG, those were like about to start giving us actual issues. We were gonna start having misfires or check engine lights for noticeable performance issues. So I'm pretty glad we got this one done. I'm pretty glad we made the choice, the $36 choice, to replace those intake plenum seals. I would have liked to get the throttle body in the ultrasonic cleaner, but we got about 95% of the mud and the blood and the beer scooped out of there. That's good too. So all of this going to contribute to the wife getting slightly better MPG, which don't hurt. It does not hurt. Leave me a comment down there in the squawk boxes, man. What would you do different about this job? I watched a few folks, they took out like 20 more things than I did. And we didn't have a hard time, right? They were removing all kinds of crap. I think this is the easiest way. The driver's side, you remove the intake tubing. The passenger side, you have to remove the intake upper plenum. And that's really it, right? That EGR thing, that's about it. So leave me a comment down in the squawk boxes. Would you have done anything differently? Did you like how I did it? If you got any questions, by all means, leave me that comment down there in the squawk boxes. I'd be more than happy to help you. My understanding is this is the same from the 2011 to the 2019 3.6 liters, specifically in the Durango, but if you had one in a Pacifica or a Caravan or a Charger, it's gonna be in the ballpark the same. The intake tubing might look a little different, but you should be pretty darn close. If you like the video, that's common sense. Subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching.